There is something I have been trying to put into words for longer than I care to admit. Not because the words refuse to come, but because none of them ever felt worthy of what lives inside my heart when I think about you. Some feelings are too large for ordinary language. They don't arrive with noise. They don't demand attention. They settle quietly inside a person until one day they become impossible to ignore. This is one of those feelings. So before another ordinary day steals the courage I have gathered, let me speak while my heart is still louder than my fear. Listen to me not because I expect you to agree with everything I say, but because every sentence you are about to hear has been carried carefully, protected quietly, and loved deeply before it ever reached my lips. I am not here to impress you. I am not here to sound poetic. I am here because some truths become too heavy to keep hidden. And you deserve the truth. Recently, I noticed something. It wasn't loud. No dramatic scene. No obvious sign that the world would recognize. Just a small change. A silence that didn't belong to you. A smile that looked complete from a distance but somehow forgot to reach your eyes. Most people would never have seen it. Life moves too quickly. Everyone is busy protecting their own storms. But when someone matters to you, even the smallest shift becomes impossible to ignore. You don't need an explanation. Your heart simply knows. Mine knew. It knew before my mind could explain why. Since that moment, one question has followed me everywhere. Who convinced someone as extraordinary as you that they needed to become smaller just to make someone else comfortable? Who made you question your own light? Who looked at a soul capable of bringing warmth into cold places and somehow left you wondering whether you were enough? I don't know their name. Perhaps I never will. Maybe it was one careless sentence. Maybe it was years of quiet disappointment. Maybe it was someone who promised forever but disappeared the moment forever demanded patience. Maybe it was someone who only appreciated your kindness after they had already taken too much of it. Whatever it was, they were wrong. Not a little wrong. Completely. Because if there is one thing I have learned from watching you, it is this. You have never needed to become someone else to deserve love. The world has simply been filled with people who were too distracted to recognize the rare miracle standing in front of them. People often mistake gentleness for weakness. They mistake patience for permission. They mistake kindness for something that can be borrowed without ever being returned. But kindness has never been weakness. It takes incredible strength to remain gentle in a world that constantly rewards hardness. And somehow, you still choose softness. Even after disappointment. Even after silence. Even after carrying heartbreaks that would have taught many people to close their hearts forever, you still choose compassion. That tells me everything I need to know about you. Strength is not measured by how loudly someone fights. Sometimes strength is measured by how many reasons a person has to become cruel, and still refuses. That is who you are. which is exactly why something inside me refuses to stay silent whenever I imagine anyone hurting you. I have searched for another word besides protective. None of them fit. Because what I feel isn't built from pride. It isn't ownership. It isn't the desperate need to control another person's life. It is something quieter. Something steadier. The kind of feeling that simply says, if life becomes too heavy for you, then let me carry part of the weight. Not because I believe you cannot. Because I know you've carried enough alone. There is a difference. A very important one. You are not fragile. You never were. You are resilient. But even mountains crack beneath endless winters. Even oceans become restless beneath constant storms. Even the strongest hearts deserve somewhere safe to rest. I wish the world understood that. People celebrate those who survive. Very few ask what surviving has cost them. Very few wonder how many tears were swallowed before the smile returned. Very few notice the nights that existed before the morning looked beautiful again. I think about those nights. The invisible ones. The nights no photographs remember. The nights where courage looked less like victory, and more like simply making it until sunrise. If you have lived through nights like that, I wish someone had been there to remind you that your pain was never something you needed to hide. Because somewhere along the way, I think you learned to apologize for needing comfort. You became the one everyone leaned on. The dependable one. The calm one. The listener. The healer. The safe place. And while everyone found shelter inside your heart, who remembered to build one for years, that question stays with me. Because people like you often become so skilled at carrying others that no one realizes how exhausted your own soul has become. I don't want to be another person who enjoys your light without protecting the flame. I want to be someone who notices when you're tired before you say the words. Someone who recognizes the difference between silence that heals, and silence that hurts. Someone who doesn't wait for you to ask for help before quietly standing beside you. Not in front of you. Not above you. Beside you. Exactly where real loyalty belongs. There is something peaceful about knowing someone is there without needing to be reminded. No grand promises. No dramatic speeches. Just consistency. The kind that arrives every day. The kind that stays after the excitement fades. Because feelings can arrive like fireworks. Beautiful. Bright. Impossible to ignore. But fireworks disappear. What changes lives is the sunrise. Reliable. Patient. Certain. If I ever become anything meaningful in your life, I hope I become your sunrise. Not because I shine the brightest, but because you know I will return. Again. And again. And again. No matter how long the night felt. No matter how heavy yesterday became. No matter how difficult tomorrow appears. There are enough temporary people in this world. Enough almosts. Enough promises spoken beautifully and forgotten easily. Enough hands that hold tightly only until holding requires effort. I never want my presence to become another disappointment you have to recover from. If I stay completely. Not perfectly. No human being can promise perfection. But honestly. Faithfully. With both feet planted firmly beside yours. Because love, at its purest, is not proven by extraordinary moments. It is proven by ordinary days repeated faithfully over time. The message that says, I made it home safely. The voice that notices you're quieter than usual. The question, did you eat today? The reminder, get some rest. The willingness to remain when life stops feeling cinematic. That kind of love changes people. That kind of love teaches frightened hearts that they no longer have to prepare for abandonment. Maybe that is what I want most for you. Not grand romance. Not impossible perfection. Peace. Real peace. The kind that slowly untangles every fear someone else tied inside your heart. The kind that whispers, you don't have to keep proving your worth anymore. Because you never should have had to. Not once. Not ever. You were already enough before anyone questioned you. You remain enough now. And you will still be enough long after every voice that doubted you has disappeared into history. I hope one day you believe that as deeply as I do. Because the world becomes brighter every time someone like you finally sees themselves through kinder eyes. And until that day comes, if you ever forget your value, borrow my belief in you. I have more than enough to share. If there is one promise I hope my actions make before my words ever do, it is this. You will never have to wonder where you stand with me. Uncertainty has stolen enough from you already. It has taken sleep from your nights, peace from your thoughts, and confidence from moments that should have belonged entirely to your happiness. I have no desire to become another chapter that teaches you to expect disappointment. The world has enough unfinished stories. Enough conversations that ended without explanation. Enough people who arrived loudly and disappeared quietly. I want to be different. Not because I believe I am extraordinary. But because I know what it feels like to crave consistency in a world addicted to temporary things. There is something beautiful about people who stay. Not because staying is easy. Because it rarely is. Anyone can remain when life is effortless. Anyone can smile when the sky is clear. Character reveals itself when the weather changes. When misunderstandings appear. When distance stretches across days. When exhaustion replaces excitement. When silence becomes uncomfortable. That is when love is tested. Not in the moments that feel magical, but in the ordinary hours nobody applauds. I have learned that love is not measured by intensity. Intensity burns quickly. It dazzles. It overwhelms. And then, sometimes, it disappears as suddenly as it arrived. Steadiness is different. Steadiness wakes up every morning and chooses the same heart again. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't announce itself. It simply remains. If I ever love you the way my heart hopes to, it will look less like fireworks, and more like a lighthouse. Standing through every storm. Visible even when the sea becomes impossible to cross. Never asking the waves to become calmer before continuing to shine. Because real care does not disappear when circumstances become difficult. It becomes more intentional. Sometimes I wonder if you realize how much of yourself you quietly give away every single day. You encourage people who have forgotten how to believe in themselves. You forgive more than anyone knows. You listen when your own heart is begging to be heard. You celebrate other people's victories while carrying battles no one can see. That kind of generosity is beautiful. But it can also become lonely. Because the people who are always giving are often the last ones anyone thinks to ask, "How are you, really?" Not politely. Not automatically. But genuinely. How is your heart? What has it been carrying lately? Which memories still visit you after midnight? Which words still echo longer than they should? What dream are you secretly afraid to believe in because disappointment has introduced itself too many times? Those are the questions I wish someone asked you more often. Not because your pain defines you. Because your heart deserves the same attention it so freely gives everyone else. You have spent so much of your life becoming a place of comfort for others. I hope one day someone becomes that place for you. A place where you never have to perform strength. Where silence isn't misunderstood. Where tears are never treated like weakness. Where laughter isn't expected to hide the hurt underneath it. A place where you can simply exist, without explaining yourself. Without apologizing. Without pretending. I think the safest people are not the loudest ones. They are the ones who make your nervous system finally believe it can rest. The ones who never punish honesty. The ones who protect your vulnerability instead of using it against you. The ones whose presence lowers your heartbeat instead of raising your anxiety. That is the kind of person I hope to become. Someone whose loyalty feels ordinary because it never changes. Someone whose kindness doesn't depend on convenience. Someone who remembers the little things because your happiness matters enough to notice them. The song you replay when life feels overwhelming. The coffee you always order, the way your voice changes when you're excited about something. The subjects your eyes brighten for. The memories you avoid talking about. Not because I wish to collect details. Because every detail belongs to someone I deeply respect. And respect always pays attention. People often speak about protecting someone as though it means fighting. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, protection is much quieter. It means protecting your peace from unnecessary chaos. Protecting your confidence when doubt whispers lies. Protecting your dreams when fear tells you to settle. Protecting your reputation when you're not in the room. Protecting your heart by never making promises I cannot keep. That kind of protection asks for no recognition. It simply becomes part of how someone loves. If I could place one belief inside your heart forever, it would be this. You never have to shrink to be accepted. The right people will never ask you to become less alive. They will never ask you to become quieter so they can feel louder. They will never ask you to dim your intelligence, soften your ambition, silence your laughter, or hide your emotions simply because your authenticity makes them uncomfortable. Healthy love creates space. It never demands smaller versions of the people it claims to cherish. You deserve that kind of space. The kind where your dreams are celebrated instead of questioned. Where your flaws are understood instead of weaponized. Where your growth is encouraged instead of feared. Because love should never feel like surviving an interview. It should feel like arriving home after wandering for far too long. I hope that wherever life takes us, whether the days are filled with sunshine or uncertainty, you never forget how extraordinary your heart truly is. Not extraordinary because it is perfect. Nothing living is perfect. Extraordinary because it continues choosing hope after disappointment. Because it continues believing in goodness after witnessing cruelty. Because it continues searching for light even after walking through darkness. Hearts like yours become rare with time. The world teaches people to become harder. To trust less. To feel less. To care less. Yet somehow, you continue becoming more human instead of less. That quiet courage deserves to be protected. Not because you are incapable of protecting yourself. Because even the strongest souls deserve someone who willingly stands beside them. And if one day life becomes heavier than your smile can hide, if your confidence begins to tremble, if old wounds begin speaking louder than today's happiness, I hope you remember this. You do not have to carry every burden alone. You never did. And you never should. Because somewhere in this vast, unpredictable world, there should always exist at least one heart that hears yours growing tired, and quietly says, "Rest for a while. I've got you." That is the kind of promise I want my life to become. Not spoken once. Lived every single day. There is something I have never been able to explain properly. It isn't something I saw the first moment we met. It wasn't one unforgettable conversation or a single perfect memory that changed everything. It happened much more quietly than that. It happened little by little. Like dawn arriving while the world is still asleep. You rarely notice the exact second darkness becomes light. You only realize it has happened when suddenly you can see everything more clearly. That is what knowing you has felt like. Not a sudden explosion. A slow awakening. Every conversation revealed another piece of the person you are. Every silence told me something words never could. Every ordinary moment carried an honesty that extraordinary moments often fail to reach. And somewhere along that journey, without asking for permission, without making any grand announcement, you became important to me. More important than I ever expected someone could become. Not because you demanded attention, but because your presence earned it. There is a quiet elegance in the way you move through life. You don't try to convince people that you're kind. You simply are. You don't chase admiration. You leave it behind wherever you go. You don't speak loudly just to be heard. Yet somehow your sincerity echoes longer than noise ever could. That is rare. Very rare. The world has become crowded with people trying to appear extraordinary. You never seemed interested in appearing. You were busy becoming. There is a difference. One is performance. The other is character. Character survives long after appearances disappear. That is what I admire most. Not your perfection. Not the image others may have of you. But the person you continue choosing to become when nobody is watching. I think that's where real beauty lives. Not on the surface. Not in photographs. Not in carefully chosen words. Real beauty reveals itself in invisible places. In how someone treats people who can offer them nothing. In the patience they show when life becomes inconvenient. In the honesty they maintain when lying would be easier. In the compassion they continue offering after their own heart has been broken. I have seen those things in you. Perhaps not all at once. But enough to know they are real. Enough to know they are not accidents. They are simply who you are. And once you witness something that genuine, you cannot pretend you didn't. You carry it with you. You protect it. You appreciate it more with every passing day. Sometimes I wonder if you realize the effect your existence has on the people fortunate enough to truly know you. Not the version of you the world sees for a few moments. The real you. The thoughtful one. The hopeful one. The one who worries more than they admit. The one who notices when others are hurting. The one who quietly sacrifices comfort so someone else can smile. You leave traces behind you. Not because you try to. Because kindness always does. Years from now, people may forget conversations, they may forget places. They may even forget dates. But they never forget how someone made them feel. You have a way of making people feel valued. Seen. Important. That is a gift no success can replace. I don't think enough people have thanked you for that. So let me thank you, for remaining gentle in a world that constantly encouraged you to become colder. Thank you, for believing in goodness even after disappointment tried convincing you otherwise. Thank you, for carrying hope when giving up would have been easier. Thank you, for reminding people, without even realizing it, that kindness still exists. Do you know what I find most remarkable? It isn't your strength. Although you have plenty of it. It isn't your intelligence. Although it quietly reveals itself every time you speak. It isn't even your heart. As extraordinary as it is. What amazes me most, is your resilience. The way you continue beginning again. Life has not handed you perfection. It has challenged you, tested you, asked more of you than it should have. Yet somehow, you continue planting flowers where others would have left empty ground. That takes courage. A different kind of courage. Not the courage that shouts. The courage that whispers, "I will try again." There is incredible power in that whisper. More than most people ever realize. Perhaps that is why I never worry about whether life will defeat you. It won't. You have already survived things that once convinced you they were impossible. You may carry scars. But scars are proof that healing happened. They are not proof that you lost. Every chapter you survived. Someone arrives who quietly changes the meaning of home. Without asking. Without trying. Simply by being exactly who they are. To me, you are becoming that kind of person. And now, after everything I have shared, after every truth I have carried here with open hands, there is only one thing left to say. Not because I have run out of words, but because some feelings eventually reach a place where words can only stand quietly beside them. If you remember nothing else from everything I've told you, remember this. You will never have to earn your place in my heart. Not by being perfect. Not by always being strong. Not by pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Not by hiding the parts of yourself that life convinced you were too complicated to love. Bring me the whole truth of who you are. The laughter. The silence. The victories no one applauds. The fears you never speak aloud. The dreams you protect because you're afraid the world will laugh at them. Bring me all of it. Because love that only accepts your brightest moments was never love to begin with. Real love sits beside you in ordinary hours. It stays when conversations become difficult. It chooses understanding before judgment. It reaches for your hand instead of pointing a finger. That is the only kind of love I have ever wanted to give. I don't promise a life without storms. No one can. The sky belongs to no one. Some days will be beautiful. Others will test every piece of us. There will be moments when we don't have all the answers. Moments when life feels heavier than either of us expected. Moments when silence says more than language ever could. But even then, even in those uncertain hours, I hope you never have to question one thing. Whether you're facing them alone. Because you won't be. If your world begins to shake, look beside you. I'll be there. If your confidence begins to fade, borrow mine until yours remembers how to shine again. If tears become too heavy to hide, you will never have to hide them from me. If your heart grows tired, lean on mine for a while. That is not weakness. That is what two souls are meant to do. Carry each other. Remind each other. Choose each other. Again. And again. And again. Not because every day feels easy. Because every day is worth choosing. People spend their lives searching for certainty. for something that won't disappear when circumstances change. I cannot promise what tomorrow will bring. Life has always written its own surprises. But I can promise the kind of person I will choose to be tomorrow. Someone honest. Someone present. Someone whose loyalty does not depend on convenience. Someone who protects your peace as carefully as his own. Someone who never lets a single day pass without making sure you know you matter. Not through grand speeches, but through consistent love. Through patience. Through respect. Through showing up. Every chance I get. If one day the world becomes too loud, come find me. We'll sit in the quiet until your heart remembers its rhythm. If one day you begin doubting your worth, I'll remind you of every beautiful thing you've forgotten about yourself. If one day you feel like giving up, I'll stay beside you until hope finds its way back home. Because hope always returns. Especially to hearts that refuse to stop believing. And yours was always one of those hearts. Maybe that's why meeting you changed something inside me. You reminded me that goodness still exists. That kindness is still powerful. That gentle people still survive in a world determined to harden them. You became proof that beautiful souls are not stories people invent. They still walk among us. They still heal without realizing it. They still inspire simply by remaining true to themselves. Thank you, for existing exactly as you are. Thank you, for unknowingly making my world softer. Thank you, for reminding me that some people are worth every prayer, every effort, every ounce of patience, and every promise made with a sincere heart. If destiny allows our paths to continue together, I will consider myself fortunate. If life asks us to wait, I will wait with hope instead of fear. And if time teaches us anything, I hope it teaches us this: that the strongest relationships are never built in a single extraordinary moment. They are built through thousands of ordinary choices. Small kindnesses. Quiet forgiveness. Shared laughter, long conversations. Comfortable silence. Faith that never stops choosing love. So here is my final promise. Not the loud promise made to impress the world. The quiet one whispered only to your heart. As long as I have breath, you will always have someone praying for your happiness. Someone celebrating your victories. Someone believing in you on the days you forget how. Someone protecting your dignity even when you're not there to hear it. Someone thanking God for your existence. Because your life has meaning. Your heart has value. Your presence changes lives more than you know. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Walk through this world with your head high. Speak with the kindness that has always lived inside you. Protect the beautiful heart that makes you who you are. And whenever life tries to make you feel invisible, remember this. Somewhere, there is a heart that never stopped seeing you. Never stopped believing in you. Never stopped choosing you in silent prayers. Never stopped hoping that every sunrise would bring you one more reason to smile. Because to me, you were never ordinary. You were never replaceable. You were never forgotten. You have always been, and you will always be, one of the most beautiful blessings this life could ever place in someone's path. So don't be afraid anymore. The future doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be real. And if our story continues, then let it be written not with fear, but with trust. Not with doubt, but with faith. Not with promises spoken once, but with love proven every single day. Until the final page. And even then, if hearts are remembered after words fade away, I hope mine is remembered for one simple truth. That loving you was never the hardest thing I ever did. It was the easiest decision my heart ever made.